This is my Sleishman acoustic Bubinga gloss natural wood finish studio kit, which was conceived to have a great palette of sounds, both in terms of the drums and cymbals, in order to have all the voices that I could ever need to have in any recording situation. This setup has also been designed to be the ultimate technique developing machine or instrument, and we will see exactly why when we move to the back of the kit. So the reason for this becomes clearly apparent when we see the pedal setup, which is based around the Sleishman twin pedals, which put the snare drum directly in the center of the bass drum for unparalleled symmetry. And so on either side, I have cable hi-hats on either side of those twin pedals. And on either side of the cable hi-hats, I have claves, wood blocks. So this setup enables me to develop all sorts of different patterns, both on the left and the right hand side, and coordination patterns between hands and feet, and all the possible combinations you could have of patterns between hands and feet. I have been playing the Sleishman twin pedal for most of my working life, so over 40 years. And that fundamentally has informed the way that I've approached the drums, my technique, my vocabulary, my musicality. When cable hi-hats came into being, I was able to use a cable hi-hat to start playing open-handed on the right-hand side. And this enabled me to develop the idea of circular motion drumming, where the hi-hats do not impede movement either left or right. So when we look at this kit configuration, you could see that if you wanted to think about it, there you have a 6-piece kit on this side. You also have an 8-piece kit on this side. And therefore the left and the right hand side can be seen as having their own drum kit in a way whereby the left or the right can play clockwise or counterclockwise in circular motions. Obviously, both sides are connected in exploring the musicality, but sheerly as a technical exercise, it means that one can stay straight facing the snare drum, never really having to move one's torso from left to right to play ascending or descending patterns. So my consideration over so many years based on this circular motion drumming proved that I could set up the actual drum sizes in different orders to create different capabilities with the circular motion playing. So in this instance, the way that the kit is set up at the moment, initially I conceived of it as having 5 toms across the front, but I decided that 4 toms were actually a much better and more ergonomic situation. And so what we have here is I decided to put a snare drum. This is a 12-inch snare drum just here underneath the hi-hat. And in order to create different voices, I have 4 snare drums on this drum kit. I'm still waiting for my 6.5 by 10 Sleishman snare drum. So I am using this little Tama here at the moment, but as soon as that drum becomes available, that one will be replaced. So there are 4 toms, 4 snare drums, 4 floor toms, and a bass drum, obviously. So let's go through the sizes. So from right to left, here we have a 10 by 8, followed by a 12 by 8, followed by a 13 by 7, followed by the 12 by 7 snare drum. The floor tom here is a 13 by 12. On the other side, we have a 14 by 12. Moving back again, we have a 16 by 14 floor tom. On this side, an 18 by 16 floor tom. And then we have the little 8 by 8. We have what will be a 6.5 by 10 snare drum. This snare drum is a 13 by 7. And the main snare drum is a 14 by 6.5. So I'll go into greater details about how I use this kind of setup in my approach relative to musicality, vocabulary, and technique. And I will be posting many videos that explore this circular motion, open-handed drumming in greater details. But for now, that gives you an idea about the drums. So similarly, the symmetry that was created from the very beginning by the twin pedals, putting the snare drum in the middle of the bass drum, have also informed the way that I have approached the cymbal setup for these drums. So initially, it wasn't so tight. The idea would have put the hi-hats more on the outer edges, but the 4 toms across the front using these sizes enabled me to keep them much closer. But I also decided to put these little dedicated close hi-hats on either side of the snare drum, and that's kind of a bit of a throwback from my electronic drum setup where I had CY5 pads set up on either side of the snare in between the floor toms as dedicated hi-hats. And I find that that works really well for a variety of purposes. So if we look at the cymbal setup, it does, or it can seem to be overwhelming, but it's actually based on quite a simplicity. So obviously here on this side, I would have the main leading hi-hat and ride cymbal playing open-handed, but I do have another hi-hat which is connected to the right hand cable hi-hat pedal on this side. So then what do we have? Well, we have symmetrical crashes, right and left. If we pull back next to those, we have symmetrical chinas, right and left. And if we pull back further, we have trash crashers, which are symmetrical on either side, right and left. And then on both sides, I have a cymbal here, so that if I end up playing and I'm moving to this area, or on the other side, if I end up on the 18 floor tom, I've basically put these cymbals so I've got something accessible very close to those drums that are at the far end of the kit, so that I don't have to move back in to the center to have something accessible. So basically we have 6 cymbals, 2 crashes, 2 chinas, 2 trash crashes, which are completely symmetrical. And so if you were to think of it not as a kind of a mirror image or 2 kits, one on either side, then fundamentally you could just see that we have a crash, we have a china and a trash crash, but they're just doubled mirror images. Similarly, all of these little bells and splashes are also symmetrically arranged. So we have this little china right in the center, and then on either side we have 10-inch splashes, and then we have an 8-inch and a 6-inch splash next to those, so symmetrical once again. And then here we have 2 bells that are symmetrical on top of the crashes, and similarly on this side here, 2 bells. So when you think of it in these terms, when you see the logic of how this whole thing has been set up, then it doesn't look so overwhelming. It's quite a simple setup when you break it down, even though it is quite busy. I also have a little stack here, and on the side I have another wood block and a cowbell. They work for percussion effects and patterns, and I also have a bigger cowbell here on the right hand side. And of course you can see similar wood blocks. So on the feet, so I actually have a low on the left hand side, I have the high on the right hand side, and this medium green one here. So we won't actually hear the drums today. I will set up a proper recording session for the next video where I outline in detail, or in more detail, how the setup actually functions practically. But I want to have more of than just a phone recording the sound of the drums. I hope you enjoyed this little introduction to my custom Sleishman Bubinga setup, and we will meet again down the road.